And time's up. Okay, we're going to go to Dr. Eyolfson now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Weber, actually, because you actually pointed out something that you actually led into a question that I was about to ask. So this is perfectly in sync. Dr. Sabat, you talked about how the black market will always undercut the price of the legal market. In our previous session, we had testimony from Washington State that said that, in fact, the price was consistently lower from their legal market. So how do you reconcile that?
Well, there are multiple reasons why the black market, one of them is, I think, is undercut the price, and I don't know, I'm not privy to that testimony. I'm sure I'd like to see it. But the other issue is that, they are open all night. It's true, they don't care whether you have an identification or not. So there are...
Which, in Washington?
Well, in Washington, there's an age limit. My point is, with drug dealers, there's no age limit, right? So they're able to get around the regulations because they're not following them. They don't need to follow them.
Yeah. We're talking about the price.
Yeah.
And you had said that the black market always undercuts.
I'm not saying it's very difficult to say.
All right. Sorry,
so I don't want to say always.
Yeah, it implied that it was.
It's not difficult.
I thought I heard the word always.
Okay.
But,
probably my problem, my fault there. So I'll retract.
Because we had clear testimony that, in fact, due to the economies of scale of a legal market that did not have to worry about the fact that they could be shut down illegally, they were able to significantly undercut the price. Mr. Freedman, would you agree that's the experience in Colorado?
Yeah, I think the economics of this are such that, barring extreme taxation or a regulation that makes a normal consumer feel like they're missing out on a variety that they prefer, that especially over time and as people create different behavior patterns, we've seen very quickly that we've captured at least 70% of the market, and I think when new data comes out, you'll find it closer to 90-95% of the market. Internally in Colorado is now all in the regulated system and not in the black market system.
Okay, thank you. That's quite helpful. Now, Dr. Sabat, as well, you talked about if we legalize this, then once it's entrenched, then how do we reverse it? Because alcohol, we couldn't reverse it. Tobacco's there, we couldn't reverse it. Given the prevalence of cannabis in society today, and both in the United States and Canada, there's would you not agree with the argument that it's already so entrenched that we're never going to reverse this?
Look, of course, cannabis is accessible, it's available, it's already normalized, it's used by a lot. In fact, both sides of the aisle in my mind are right on this. That you're both correct. Cannabis use has fallen dramatically in Canada over the last 20 years, but it's still the number 1 or 2 country in the world for use. So it sort of depends on how you look at that half glass of water being full or empty. Absolutely, there will always be people using cannabis, and it will be prevalent. But when there are ways that the law can and society can either encourage use or discourage use. My argument would be, let's discourage use, especially among young people. I think that's hard to do when cannabis becomes essentially a badge of adulthood. It becomes normalized, and it becomes like we have with alcohol. Now, with tobacco, we have seen a reduction in use while tobacco's legal. And that's an interesting case because it sort of counters what I'm saying, because with alcohol, we see way more people drinking than using cannabis. Many more young people are drinking than using cannabis and the general population. But with tobacco in the United States and Canada, among certain age groups, we've seen a reversal. More kids smoking cannabis than tobacco. Is that because tobacco is legal? I don't think so. Tobacco's been legal for this generation's lifetime. It wasn't like it was illegal and then it became legal, so use went down. No, use went down of tobacco because we had a societal shift that has been going on for the last couple decades, whereas as a society we said, there is no debate. This is not good. We want to discourage use. If you come in here and say this is good for you, or it's medicine, or it's this, and it cures cancer and opioid addiction, you'll be laughed out of the room if you say that on tobacco. As a society, we've made that determination, so we have been able to reduce tobacco use even in legality. I worry with cannabis, whether it's legal or not, actually. We are in the reverse culturally of where we are with tobacco. We're at a point where kids think it's medicinal, which, by the way, on the medicinal side, just for the record, there are medicinal applications of cannabis, just like there are medicinal applications of opium. We don't smoke opium to get the effects of morphine. I don't think we need to smoke cannabis to get its potential medical effects. We should treat it, in my mind, like every other pharmaceutical drug. We should derive what's important from it and give it in a safe dose. But the point is, we're so far away from that with cannabis, with young people thinking that it's harmless. And I don't think young people think it's harmless because it's illegal. I think young people think it's harmless because we haven't, as a society, delivered in an evidence-based fashion, because sometimes we've gone way overboard, certainly in the U.S. We haven't delivered science-based messages in an evidence, in that fashion in multiple sectors of society. And I think if you tried that first, and you tried to sort of make it as not normal as tobacco, you may see some positive results. Actually, I do worry that if you legitimize cannabis, are we now going to make smoking, which is so out of vogue for young people, back in vogue? And actually, is there evidence now in some places where smoking of tobacco may be taken up more than it was because of cannabis? I don't know, but it's something I think we should look at and be worried about.
Time's up. Now we go to Mr. Davies.